Dave just asked a good question that I think we should address. He says, broad-based declines in stock valuations this year have affected many high-quality companies. Do you anticipate any significant portfolio rebalancing this year as a result of these price dislocations? It's a good question.
So we are actually right now in the middle of looking at some of the changes that we could do. I will tell you, I think that for some of you that have been clients for a very long time, unless there's been, I guess when some clients have net withdrawals, and so there's consistent taxes. But for people who've been just a one-time contribution or net contributors, I think you've noticed over time that we tend to manage it very tax efficiently because we're trying very much to compound our money on top of Uncle Sam's money. The second you sell that and you pay those taxes, that money's gone for good, and you can never earn money on that money again. It's gone. And so we try very much to identify great businesses that we can hopefully own for a decade or several decades to come. Having said that, last year, I think a lot of you probably saw a much bigger tax bill than you're accustomed to. And there was a time of changes, and that it was almost, I think it'll feel better if you were to average out the fact that the prior year, you almost had no taxes. Last year, a higher bill, average it out over the 2 years, and it really wasn't so bad. And it still was much less than the gains you realized, or sorry, the gains that you unrealized, but that you experienced. So what I bring all of that up is to say, the answer is yes. We are looking at trimming some more holdings that have been holding up well. You might potentially see some trimmings coming from businesses like Progressive, Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, things like that. And we're hoping that we can use those to put those proceeds into something like Amazon that's down greatly. And then perhaps even in 30 days, then sell off the Amazon, because we may somewhat buy even more than is maybe necessary at the time, so that 30 days later, you have to wait. Otherwise, you can't experience the loss. But then sell it 30 days later to wipe out some of those gains that are experienced. Again, trying to tax effectively manage the portfolio so that you don't lose money to Uncle Sam.
But I would just say that we feel, really good about the portfolio, the diversification of the holdings. And so, in a lot of cases, that the sort of just sit tight and let your businesses compound, it's hard to do, but it's one of the most powerful things to do. And so while we will, it makes sense to sometimes do some rebalancing, we're not, we don't think it makes sense to kind of
get too fancy.
Yeah.
And one of the analogies I love to use is one that my dad would use all the time. I mean, this literally goes back to when I'm a kid at the dinner table. Growing up, but he just talks about the beach ball being pushed underwater, and that the businesses you own, as long as you're owning businesses where the water level keeps rising over time, the stock price is like the beach ball being pushed under the rising water level of your business as it continues to grow, and the pressure builds. And so right now, there's been an initial hit on some of the businesses we own on valuation because rates went up. We did a whole letter on this, so you might look if you haven't read it yet, but we describe in detail that process of why there's been a valuation hit to these businesses in the short run. But then as those businesses grow, it's like the water pressure continues to build, and eventually we believe that the hands come off and you'll see that beach ball pop to the surface. And so as they're compressed, we may want to get more of stuff and do a little rebalancing, but as a whole, we're just, as Elliott said, we're grateful that we like the way the makeup of the portfolio.
All the stocks we've mentioned should not be considered a recommendation to buy or sell the stock. Consult your financial advisor for your specific situation. You can also request from YCG a list of all the securities that we've recommended over the last 12 months. Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos, and we'll see you next time.